Welcome to Down the Road. I want to thank Tyler Axness for sitting in for me yesterday. I was up in Williston doing my radio show, and I drove back down. We're going to get to that in just a sec of what I saw along the route. Got a number of things, though, to cover today. We're going to talk about bicycles. We're going to talk about getting out on the trails and the fun that we can have heading into Memorial Day weekend. We're also going to get a chance to talk with Ben Prather about he's Cass County's vector control, about how bad the bugs are going to be out there, how bad the mosquitoes are going to be out there. But this is a name and a face that you're going to recognize. Daryl Ritchison has been part of our lives in many ways, in many capacities. He worked at WDAY television for a long time. He was the man that I counted on the most out of all the individuals that forecasted weather, because I cared about weekends the most. And so I'm going to bring Daryl in. And Daryl now is the boss when it comes to the North Dakota Agriculture Weather Network. And he's counted on a lot by a lot of us still. Daryl, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Well, thanks for having me on again.
I got to talk to you about yesterday, which I'm going to tell you things I know you already know, but I want to make sure, because our audience goes way beyond North Dakota, what I saw. I thought of the 30s. Winds blowing with gusts up to, if they weren't 50, they sure felt like 50. And here's some pictures of what I saw. This one was taken by a friend on a township road, and then the other ones, I think, are the ones that I took, or one of my riders along with me took. But, there was a dirt storm going on out there, Daryl, and it wasn't pretty.
No, it was just plain and simply what I would describe as ugly yesterday, and that came with after the last week. Most of the state had quite a bit of rainfall, which settled the soil a little bit. I mentioned to several folks yesterday, could you imagine how bad it would have been had we not had that rain? Because it was really bad with a good amount of rain. If it was not for the rain in the last week, speaking of the 1930s and those pictures you see of those horrible dust storms, it probably would have looked almost exactly like that. So it was really nasty yesterday.
Daryl, I was up in Tulna last week, and, you go up to an area like Tulna, and you've told me before, and have others, that, Devil's Lake can be its own weather pattern itself. But, you go up around Stump Lake there, and in one area they got a 1/4 inch, and you didn't have to go another mile, and they got 1.5 inches, and then you'd go that 1.5 miles again, and they got another 1/4 inch. It was that different all over within a 5-mile area, Daryl.
Yeah, we had our NDAWN stations. We have well over 100 in North Dakota. We have a total of 166 now in Montana, North Dakota, and Minnesota. And those stations, we had locations that had 4 or 5 inches of rain. And the last week, we had areas that had a 1/4 inch, somewhat typical of thunderstorms. But when everyone needed moisture, you really noticed those spots that only picked up a 1/4 or a 1/2 inch in the last week.
The truth of the matter is we didn't get a lot of snow. We didn't get a lot of spring moisture. And as the chart you just saw showed that Daryl provided us, it's not good out there. I mean, it's really not good, to the point where, there's a lot of ranchers that, they didn't get that spring pasture that they were hoping for. I mean, how serious is this drought?
Well, what happened in the last week, helped a lot. I always tell people in weather, it's a lot like life. You really can't do anything about the past. If you're thinking you're going to catch up, I think that's always kind of the wrong attitude to have, because you really just, what are we going to get in the near term? And so what we had the last week will help us for a couple of weeks. There's going to be a really good rain tonight into tomorrow morning, but that will mainly impact, Joel, I think, areas near and south of Interstate 94. So really some of the driest areas would be, say, the Minot area in north central North Dakota. They probably won't get any in the next day. And looking in the next 10 days, I really think the dry pattern is going to come back. So although we did get some temporary relief, which was fantastic, it's still, I think it's going to be an ongoing concern probably for the entire summer.
We've been talking a lot about winter going into spring this year. How big of a factor when it comes to moisture is snow? Because it seems to me, in talking to many of you, that snow doesn't play as big of a factor as what people like me may think.
It really doesn't. And the other thing I always remind people of, almost the entire state of North Dakota averages more rain in June than we do in November, December, January, February, and March combined. So those 5 months almost equal the same amount of rain we average in June. It's very, very close. So that's a sign of, winter is our dry season. So being 50% of normal or even 25% of normal in the winter really only means you're missing a half or 3/4 of an inch of rain. Being 25% of normal in May or June, that hurts because May and June are our big 2 rainy months. And we're really highly dependent on what falls this time of year. And the other thing about winter, Joel, you always have to remember, everything's frozen in place. Even in mild winters, they're still cold. Everything's frozen in place. So we're not losing anything with evaporation. April, on the other hand, is like August. We get just as much sun angle, just as much evaporation in April as we do in August, yet most of the state only averages about an inch of precipitation. So you can dry down very quickly this time of year, and in many ways, that's what happened. We had a warmer than average March, then of course, below average or close to average rain in April, on a month that was really, really, sun-wise, really dried things out. So that's why I think the combination of a dry last fall and a dry April had more to deal with our problem than what happened over the winter.
People worry about the weather in their own backyard, and they don't look at the big picture like you do as a professional, Daryl. If you look at that corner that I live in, way down in the southern end of the Red River Valley, I don't have anything to whine about. I really don't. The crops are looking good. Being up in Williston yesterday and driving through some of that area west of Minot, it just looked like a whole different world. And as the wind started blowing, I'm wondering how much damage was done to those crops.
I have a picture from a station we have in Stutsman County, and I wished I would have taken a snapshot. We have a camera at that station. We have about 60 stations with cameras. And yesterday morning, I was looking around the cameras just to see how things are going around the state. And the crops in the field that our station is looked incredibly good, really good. And then yesterday afternoon, after all that wind and just those new growth crops coming through the soil, just looked horrible, as an example of exactly what you're talking about. And a lot of that was the soil erosion, getting beat up. That still looked really bad this morning. I'm hoping in the next few days, all of that came on back. But that's just, I think, a very small example of some of the damage that was done from the strong wind in combination with the blowing soil yesterday.
Another conversation that we had today was how we can help ourselves from a wind like that. And a lot of people called in saying the more we take out trees, the worse it's going to get. I don't know, your thoughts on that? Because for me, I don't know any farmer whose heart wasn't broken by what they saw. And with the drought conditions, this is just my guess. You're the expert. But my guess is we're going to see a lot of topsoil blowing no matter what.
This is true. So much of our shelter belts, of course, were planted in the 1930s because of what happened in the 1930s. They reached their life expectancy. So they either needed to be replanted and they were taken down. And a lot of, the corn price is really high, crop price is high, even a few years ago at times before it went back down. Let's expand and get that land back. And I completely understood that. But we don't have good enough records to prove me right, Joel, with wind data from, say, 80 years ago. But I've always contended that our wind speeds are lower now than they were in the 20s and 30s because of the trees and the shelter belts. And as we eliminate them, we increase the average wind speed a little bit. So I think they play a very, very vital role. And it might be a lesson that we have to relearn again before they get replanted.
I always go back to 1993, Daryl. And I remember the late and mid 80s when, we were struggling with some of those drought conditions. And in 1993, it just seemed like the spigot got turned on. We had the Devil's Lake Basin end up happening to it what happened. And to the point now where I'm not sure the farmers, I know they'd want their land back, but many people in the area with the economy, what it is, they don't want the lake to go down the way it's been going down recently because it's such a big factor when it comes to tourism. I mean, Daryl, have we reached the end of that cycle that started in 1993?
Back in 2006, Joel, was a drought year. And I remember so many people asking me, so this wet cycle that we've been is over with now. And I said, I really don't think so, because if you look back through history with proxy data, you can take cores and soil and stuff and try to figure out when it was wet, dry. Is that these tend to last 20 to 30 years. I personally don't think we're going to dry off and get back to, say, the 20th century average until the 2020s. Well, guess what, Joel? Time goes by very fast. And that prediction from 14, 15 years ago, we're in the 1920s now. And a lot of people remember me saying this through the years, and I still contend that the 2020s is when we were going to dry down. We'll find out, because I think we're going to have to be dry 2 or 3 years before we can really know for sure if that's the case. But I am one who will always say it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when this wet cycle will end, and we will probably lose 4 inches of that average and go back to what the average was in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. That doesn't mean necessarily a bad thing. It's just a change from what we're getting used to, because right now the averages have gone up about 4 inches, and when they go back, I would consider it average, but it's going to be a big change, I think, in the types of crops and the way that we treat the land if we go back to that 20th century mean.
I remember you saying that, just like it was yesterday. I remember you saying that, and it scared the heck out of me. And I think it scared the heck out of a lot of farmers as well. In the little bit of time I have left, make sure people know how to get your data, what you're doing out there with your career now.
Well, I am the director of NDAWN, and NDAWN stands for the North Dakota Agricultural Weather Network, so it's NDAWN. So if you, in many ways, if you do use your favorite search engine and just type in NDAWN, you will find our web pages. There's multiple ways of getting it. You're always welcome to email me as well. The map that you showed on this show, that was a rainfall total map. That came from NDAWN.info. And it's a great news source that we just did in our main website. You can find by just, again, typing in NDAWN in a search browser. But we have lots of valuable data out there. I just recently had a large grant from the Army Corps of Engineers that will increase our data that we're getting in North Dakota. So, to me, it's just exciting times away and great valuable data available for everyone for free on all of our websites.
You're great at what you do. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming down the road with us and letting people know, Daryl, what's going on out there. Let's cross our fingers and hope for different days than what we had yesterday.
Indeed.
Daryl Ritchison, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, Ben Prather is going to join us. We'll get a chance to talk to him. He is Cass County Vector Control. So stick around. More coming your way down the road.
Howdy, folks. It's a Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our hay boss and breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the County Line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark.
Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close.
Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee.
We'll even ship them to you free.
This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Thanks for staying in the rig as we continue this trek down the road. It's that season, right? It's the summer season. We're going into Memorial Day weekend, and people are going to talk about mosquitoes. They're going to talk about the things that Ben Prather deals with here in Cass County. He's with Cass County Vector Control, and he's good enough to come on with us now. Ben, good to have you coming down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Heitkamp. I won't say sir because I know that bothers you. We just got through that.
I'm
but
just so much older than you.
Well, I feel pretty old after the last year we've had. But
now, when people wonder what Cass County Vector Control does, tell them.
Yeah, so we're primarily a mosquito control agency. When you hear the word vector, predominantly people think of like ticks and maybe rats and stuff like that in the southeast and elsewhere. But we're fortunate we only really deal with mosquitoes here in the Great Plains and occasionally ticks, but we're so ag heavy around here, they don't seem to be as predominant as where you go in like Otter Tail County or areas like that where you might see a lot of woodlands and stuff like that. So Lyme disease prevalence is pretty low when it comes to specifically Cass County and the region, but mosquitoes are our big game in town, and that is our primary objective is to kill them while their larvae are in their aquatic stage or their juvenile stage, as opposed to most people just think we're out there with the aircraft or the truck sprays. But we do, our crews are out right now. We've got about 38 people who are starting for us here between May 1st and, say, June 7th. That is our primary larvicide unit.
We just had a chance to talk with Daryl Ritchison, and Daryl was talking about drought conditions. And I got to ask you, does that help or hurt what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, it helps, when it goes on the comfort and the nuisance side of the equation, So even a little bit of rainfall can create some mosquitoes, but with powder dry conditions and the dust storms we saw yesterday, that's really going to tamp that down. When it comes to the disease side of the equation, that's really specifically where we get, a little bit more concerned when you have hot and dry conditions. Really, you see West Nile conditions really start to ramp up and get the spread of that kind of kicking off a little bit earlier than normal. But no indications of either yet. Last year, we had a very dry start in June, and that turned around on a dime and got very wet and very miserable when it came to mosquitoes. So, too early to cast the die on, what this year is going to do, but something that, we're always have the right tools in place for either scenarios. It's just a little bit more comfortable and quiet for us when it's dry out.
So why West Nile more when it's drier? What's the science behind that?
Well, it really pushes the standing water mosquitoes. Their Culex is the genus of mosquitoes, and specifically those will breed or reproduce in habitat that is cattail sloughs or think of some of these drainage retention ponds. But I really think my own personal philosophy is it's primarily driven by birds, right? So birds are the primary host of West Nile virus. They introduce it to this area each and every year. So when they are resource taxed, meaning that they're going to muddy, swampy holes looking for water, right? That's really helping amplify the disease transmission in the avian or the bird population. So in those conditions, I really feel that, you're getting closer contact between your disease-capable mosquitoes and potentially a sick bird. But, really the other side of it, too, is, temperature is really a main driver. Mosquitoes are cold-blooded, obviously, like all insects. But when you have, high temperatures in the 80s, consistently, we typically start seeing that viral replication ramps up really quick. When it's cold and maybe a damper year, really we see kind of less of West Nile transmission. But the other side of it, it seems cyclical. So every 3 or 4 years, we don't really have a case at all, a human case specifically. Last year, 2020, we were fortunate to have no human cases. We had no identified birds in Cass County, that is, or any indication of mosquitoes that were transmitting the virus. You go down to Brown County, South Dakota, different story. They're really highly prevalent for West Nile, as we are too in North Dakota, Cass, Richland, Grand Forks counties. But we were just kind of lucky with it last year and had no cases. But really, I think as we see those ups and downs, those surges and ebbs and flows, if you will, there are some years that get kind of bad in terms of human infections and, of course, disease and, unfortunately, death that occurs sometimes with those illnesses.
So what's the tell? Okay, is this a regular basis that you aerial spray, or is this like, all right, they're getting bad and now we got to get up in the air? Or how do you know, Ben, when to kick it in?
Yeah, so, we're really science-based. I think, you've been around agriculture and you've heard integrated pest management thrown around. You don't spray unless you have a certain threshold for your soybean aphids or what have you. When it comes to mosquitoes, we're doing surveillance actively every day of the week. We're collecting traps and we're looking at those to determine what's the makeup of the mosquito population. Not only in like the overall mass or maybe the number of mosquitoes that we have out there day after day comparing, but we're also looking at the makeup of what those species are. Do we have the Culex genus that are there in high numbers or elevated numbers, or do we just see a lot of floodwater mosquitoes? And both of those really have kind of thresholds and tells, as you said, that push that up. When it comes to nuisance, we have one of the best surveillance networks here in Cass County and over in the city of Moorhead. We have over 40 trapping locations that are monitored every day of the week. They run every day, and we count them Monday through Friday. So we know pretty much every day what conditions have been doing versus what they are this morning or last night, more specifically. So once we cross over a 35 female trap per night threshold, if you'll follow me on that kind of logic.
I kind of do.
Yeah, so each little sentinel location, we want to, kind of just do a gross average of what those are at. And typically, once we cross over this 35 female mosquitoes per trap, per night average, that's when the phone starts ringing for us. That's when we really expect the numbers generally to start shooting up way, much higher. So once we cross that, relatively low number of nuisance, we know we're going to exceed that by a 2-3x factor. And depending on the severity, depending on maybe what the rainfall had brought from that, for each rain event causes its own brood, its own problems. So if we had a half an inch rain, we might say, well, we'll have to truck spray. It's just going to be a smaller hatch. If we had a 2.5 inch rain, now we're talking that we're seeing, region-wide severe conditions, and that generally triggers, okay, we're going to need the aircraft and probably a truck spray adjacent with that.
So how big of a factor is it in a community like Fargo, which is really one community? I mean, it is. You got West Fargo, Horace, Dilworth, and of course Moorhead.
Yeah.
And the mosquitoes don't care which side of the Red River they're on.
Yeah.
And when Moorhead decides not to aerial spray anymore, how big of a factor is that in your life?
That's something that we, have dealt with in the past. In 2000, from 2003 up to about 2015, they were two separate programs. We've been steering Moorhead and actually have been lending them a hand at their request. They came to us and asked, can you help us out? We know you guys have the resources, the tools, the science, the surveillance to give us the specifics of, whether these thresholds are right for us. And a lot of it was driven by citizen complaints in Moorhead saying, our mosquitoes are terrible. I went out to dinner in West Fargo and they were great. What's going on? For us, we do see mosquitoes. They migrate sometimes 5-10 miles, depending on which way the wind's blowing.
How do you
quite
know
literally.
that?
Well, it's a bit anecdotal for me to say that, but there has been studies where it's called mark recapture. So they actually get mosquitoes, they keep them alive, and they powder dust them with fluorescent dyes.
Oh, really?
And then they catch them somewhere else. So they put out traps, 10 or 15 or 20 miles. They know for certain that in the Florida Keys, for instance, they'll see, it's called the black salt marsh mosquito. They'll travel over 50 miles over salt water. to get into the Florida Keys. For us, we'll see, even the last few years, we'll see rains in, Sabin. We'll see rains in, south of Sabin or areas like south of Oxbow. And slowly we can see our traps start to trickle up, especially when we see, good winds out of the south, southeast, coming from those areas where we'll have, good storms that really stir things up. The most recent one actually was just this last year where we had a major June nuisance, explosion. People hate when I use that word, but we had really heightened conditions for nuisance. We had no rain pretty much last June as well. So that was very, apparent that we saw rain out in, Sabin, Barnesville, Rothsay, and not all of those mosquitoes picked up and moved. But certainly it was enough to throw our traps over threshold, and we actually made an application with 0 rainfall within the metropolitan area. But when it comes to, Moorhead and their decisions to aerial spray, right now, really nothing has changed. There's been a lot of discussions, really, and I think that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think when the chips are down, we'll see where that lands. We never plan on any one event, being sprayed. I'm not sitting here saying we're going to spray July 23rd. It's really the data-driven aspects that push us that way. But if they were to opt to not spray, we would probably have to adjust our tactics a little bit.
Last one. There's a lot of people listening that say, okay, you aerial spray, do you really know not what you're doing behind the science of, hey, you're killing mosquitoes, because you can tell in the traps whether or not there's more or less, all of that. But this could hurt me. That question comes up a lot.
That has been, a major question my entire career. Pretty much, the last 8 months have been bombarded with those types of questions. Prior to that, it was more, why aren't you spraying? There's been, my early part of my journey here at Cass County, it was do more, do more, do more. And we've actually reduced the amount of sprays that we did in terms of aerial and ground sprays compared to where we were at in 2006, for instance, 2005. But the main thing that people need to remember is that these products aren't aren't bathtub gin. They're vetted by the EPA, the CDC, and the Food and Drug Administration, because they're labeled as a medicine for head lice and body lice and all that gross stuff. It's also on your food. It's on your fruits and vegetables if you're eating conventional. But your number one actual intake of the pyrethroids that we're spraying is consumption from your fruits and vegetables. So we feel very comfortable with the products. We feel that they're in the best class of the insecticides that are available for mosquito control. But certainly we know people are concerned. We try to educate and stand behind the science. Get your vaccines. Don't worry about public health pesticides, which is what they are. Trust the science that there are experts well smarter than I am that are pushing and promoting both of these science-based interventions.
Ben, the fact that people take you for granted is what tells me you're good at your job. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Tom Smith's going to join us when we come back. What are you going to do this summer? Are you going to bicycle? We're going to find out with Tom Smith with Great Northern Bike right after this.
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com. Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the most condescending, rude email you've ever received?
Well, welcome to
National
the
news.
third term of a certain president. I really believe that.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
Hey Bucks fans, if you're planning an outing, birthday, or employee appreciation night, then bring your group out to the Buck Stop for a night of fast-paced, high-scoring football. Your group will receive discounted tickets, options for reserved seating, scoreboard messages, VIP services, swag, and a space to gather during the game. You can also participate in pre-game ceremonies, halftime entertainment, in-game contests, and more. Call 701-595-0771 or visit bismarckbucks.com/tickets. All GA is first come, first serve. We'll see you on the turf. Go Bucks!
This is going to be an interesting part of our trip down the road today. Normally, when I think of a bike, I think of my Harley, right? And the very sound that you just heard. That isn't what we're going to talk about right now. Tom Smith's going to join us. Tom is Great Northern Bike Company. And, of course, during this pandemic and during this whole time, I think the industry's taken off. In fact, let's visit with Tom about it. Tom, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Describe to people what Great Northern Bike Company is.
Well, Great Northern Bicycle Company is we're your local bicycle retailers. We've been doing business selling bicycles, promoting the use of bicycles here in Fargo since 1987.
Okay. You know, we mentioned, or I mentioned before I came to you, that that during this pandemic, life changed in a lot of different ways. Describe to people how your life changed and what happened.
Well, indeed, our lives all changed in a variety of ways, but the one area that really struck us was this incredible increase in demand for bicycles. I think it was driven by a variety of factors. People not being able to go to the gym and do the spin classes that they had done, and the variety of things they may have been doing in the gyms. I think just a yearning for a return to something a little bit more simple. So bicycling really gained popularity last year. We've seen it on an uptick for many, many years, but it just took a turn to just stratospheric levels last year. So incredible growth in bicycle demand.
Can you get them? I mean, if somebody stops in,
yeah.
there's a lot of products out there right now. I had a buddy that was trying to buy a boat. No. I had a buddy that was trying to buy a camper. No. And so I'm kind of curious,
Yeah.
Can you get the product to even sell?
Certainly that's been a challenge. We reacted pretty quickly last year. We put out big orders, you know, to bring things in. We sometimes will tell people that, well, unfortunately the wait list is about a year, but the good news is we've already waited about 10 months of it for you. So we have some bikes to sell. We're putting people on wait lists for others. The bikes that we're being able to deliver now to customers are bikes we ordered in June or July of 20 or 21.
Okay.
June or July of 20, I'm sorry.
Smart. Really smart.
You got just a lucky bet, I guess.
Well, but you've got to take the money that you put into that and sit on it for 10 months
That's
because,
true.
you know, that's money you're not making any return on.
We know that bicycles are the demand is going to continue to grow. We have great faith in the bicycle, so it makes sense that we'd place that bet.
I want to talk about what appears to be one of your most popular items now, the e-bike. What is this? What is it about?
Yeah, e-bikes. So pedal assist bikes, bikes that take the power you put to the pedals and augment it. That's been a huge growth in our industry in recent years. Prior to the pandemic, we were seeing those numbers tick up at 15 and 20% per year. the demand for the sales of pedal assist e-bikes in the United States was up 145% in 2020. We're still waiting to see what the 2021 numbers are like. So more and more people are coming around to this idea of having a pedal assist bike. It's a battery, it's a motor tucked inside the bike frame somewhere, and the power that you impart onto those pedals is just augmented. So that you're just, the manufacturer, one of our most popular manufacturers, markets it as you, only faster. We sometimes say it's you, only younger. It just gives you that power to go and do more on a bicycle.
Well, and your legs are still moving.
Absolutely. It's the same bicycling experience. The wind is just going through your hair. If you have it, the wind is just going through your hair faster. Rather than going 12 miles an hour, you're going 20 miles an hour. But you're still pedaling. You're still having that very same bicycling experience and the workout as well.
How much does a bike like this cost?
You know, we sell products starting in the mid-2000s. The bulk of that is between, I mean, these are big numbers for bicycles, right? But between $2,000 and $5,000.
You know, I don't know that that's a big number for what you're talking about versus your membership at the gym versus sitting in the house. I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that number doesn't seem to be that, as you know, it's, you look at a moped and what that costs.
Sure.
I can tell you what my Harley costs, and that doesn't seem like a big number, but how many miles an hour can you get going on one of those?
Well, there's a variety of classes. The most common class has a 20 mile an hour limit to the assist. You can pedal that bike as fast as you want, but beyond 20 miles an hour, it's 100% you. That motor assists you up to 20. We also sell Class 3 systems that provide that same assist up to 28 miles an hour. And that type of bike is very popular for people who maybe are selecting it as an alternative to driving their car, as a commuting bike. Because when you can flow along with traffic, it's much less intimidating to be using a bike as a tool for commuting. So 20 or 28 miles an hour, depending upon the class.
Okay. I want to give you an example of what's going on in where I live. We've got a bike path around Lake Elsie. So you go in, it takes you into Hankston back. By the time you get all the way around the lake and back, you've probably got, I don't know, 5-6 miles in. You know, the people in my family now, my sister Heidi, her son-in-law Matt, and others, they get on their bike out to the lake. You don't see them for a while. They're going 20 plus miles. Is that the norm now?
Well, bicycles have filled various niches for different people for 100 years, you know. So some people will ride, some people wouldn't get on their bike to ride 20 miles. Why bother just with a 20 mile ride? Others, that would be a very significant undertaking. I think that, well, your question is hard to answer. I think that the e-bike enables people to reach further toward that 10 or 15 or 20 or 50 mile ride. They have range of over 100 miles in some conditions. So you can ride these things all day long on a charge.
Interesting. Are you charging that yourself? I mean, this isn't you go back and you plug it in. I mean, is this something where your energy is charging it?
You know, early models did have the regen feature, so that when you would coast, it would regenerate. Now, bikes typically don't have that. You're going to plug it into your wall and charge it in a few hours. The regen feature just didn't really match the way people ride their bikes. I have an electric car, and every time I take my foot off the gas, it starts to regen as I decelerate. People didn't like that on the bike, right? You didn't want to stop pedaling and then slow down. We love to coast. Mm-hmm. So that regen feature cuts into that coast. So generally it's been removed. You know, from an energy consumption standpoint, a battery operated bike over 100 miles uses such a tiny amount of energy that you could still be very green conscious and not have that regen feature.
Okay, so here's what I need you to do, Tom. Sue and I, as I mentioned, bought a couple bikes, trying to ride bike more, trying to get in shape more, and I like her bike better, and it's got a basket on the front of it. You know, and I get into Hanks, and all my buddies start giving me crap about it. So, you know, I mean, not saddlebags now. I'm talking about a basket.
Sure. Maybe it's got a plastic daisy on it.
I'm just telling you.
Okay.
But is it defeat the purpose if I go into town and stop at Doc's and meet the buddies and have a beer and then still go back?
Of course, that doesn't defeat the purpose, right? We're riding bikes for a variety of different reasons. Yeah. So if your question, I think, is on the health side of a reason to ride a bike, and so no, you're burning those calories, you're doing the exercise. That's great, but remember, that's not the only reason to ride a bike. You didn't drive your Harley, and you didn't drive your pickup truck in, so it's less impact on the roads, less carbon emissions. There's a variety of reasons to ride a bike. Health is one of them.
I will tell you this. I'm glad to hear you say coasting is a big part of it, because coasting is fun. I mean, that's a big, when you're going downhill and you want to sit there and enjoy the speed, I can't imagine not having that on.
Yeah, imagine being able to coast down the hills and then get the boost going up the hill. So you're still working, you're still burning those calories, yet you're enjoying the fun part of the ride more.
With 9 grandkids, it seems to me they grow out of their bike fast. Are you seeing a lot of bikes sold on the used market?
Used bike demand certainly is very, very high. Just all bike demand is quite high now. And kids are growing through bikes. We think it's important to have kids on the right size bike all the time, and that might mean doing some recycling or handing down over the course of the years. But having kids properly fitted is important.
Clearly, what you do is fun. Tell people where to find you.
Well, Great Northern Bicycle Company is at 425 Broadway. We're downtown on the North Railroad tracks in the old Great Northern Railroad Depot. 425 Broadway, Great Northern Bicycle Company.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
You bet.
And of course, there's one near you. It may not be Great Northern, but sounds to me like Tom just wants you to get out and get riding bicycle. When we come back, I've got some comments for you. We'll get a chance to talk about country of origin labeling. We're going to get a chance to talk about what Mike Rounds and Tina Smith are doing and what I think our U.S. senators should be doing. So stick around.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Your Bismarck Bucks are hitting the road this week, Saturday, May 29th, for a 7:05 p.m. kickoff in Des Moines, Iowa, as we take on the Iowa Barnstormers for the IFL Game of the Week. Catch the game locally on Beck Sports and on our national television partner, Stadium, as the Bismarck Bucks look to improve to 4-1 on the season. Hey, go Bucks!
I know yesterday Tyler Axness, who was sitting in for me here on Down the Road, brought up the issue of country of origin labeling. He talked with the CEO of RCAF. There seems to be there is two groups when it comes to ranchers in North Dakota, one being North Dakota Stockmen's Association and the other being RCAF. Two completely separate views when it comes to certain issues, not the least of which is country of origin labeling. Let me give you an example of what happens in my life, because we love beef. We eat a lot of beef at my house, raised to eat beef. Doesn't mean we don't eat chicken, doesn't mean we don't eat hog, doesn't mean any of that, but we eat beef. In other words, we're not vegetarians. And so what I do when I buy beef is I used to buy a half when I had a full house with kids and their friends. Now I buy a half of a half. But, that serves me wonderfully. And what I do is I call my local locker plant in Fairmont Lockers, and I'll say, hey, when you're butchering, get me a couple $100 worth of hamburger, or hey, when you're butchering, see if you can't give me a half, or whatever. And so I personally don't have a lot to whine about when it comes to country of origin labeling, because I usually know where the beef came from. That isn't the case for many of you, individuals that go to that supermarket and purchase your beef. You're going through the beef section and you're looking at it. Should I buy ribs? Should I buy round steak? Make some stew? I mean, go down the list. What I do know is this, and I believe this, that if it had a label on it that said grown or raised right here in the good old US of A, that this product was produced in the US of A, I think you'd buy that before other products, even if it costs a little bit more, which I'm not convinced it would. I think you'd have more sales. I think the value would be higher. So why doesn't it? I mean, why doesn't it? Well, for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is the power of the packers, right? You got the meat packers, and there's only, 4 or 5 of those? And they control what's going on. And if you look at beef prices right now, when you go to that supermarket, you're going to see high beef prices. And then look at what the rancher's getting. They're not getting anywhere near what would justify those higher beef prices. And so once again, where's that money coming from? It's coming from the packers. And they don't care if that beef comes from Canada. They don't care if that beef comes from Mexico. They just care whether or not they get that beef at the price they want to have it at. So the farmers are getting took. The ranchers that are raising this beef are getting took. Now, on my radio show, I challenged anyone who is against country of origin labeling to explain to me why we shouldn't have it. You know how many phone calls I got? That many. That's how many phone calls I got. And one of the calls I did get that supported country of origin labeling was the fact that they have this in Canada. If you go to a Canadian supermarket, you go ahead and buy yourself a beef, you're going to look at it, and you bought this roast, and it's going to say right here in Canada. That's what it's going to say. So why not for us? Bill Bullard yesterday, when he was talking to you from an RCAF perspective, said that what's happening is there's movement as far as putting pressure on the ability to have country of origin labeling. Now, Mike Rounds is a United States Senator from South Dakota, very practical. I've met Mike Rounds. I don't want to say I know him as though we could just walk up to each other, but I do know this. I respect his work. He's a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I respect his work. He signed a letter along with Tina Smith, Democrat from Minnesota, another person whose work I respect immensely. And they're both sticking up for ranchers. They're both trying to bring to the attention of the Attorney General of the United States of America what a monopoly there is when it comes to the packers and how the ranchers are paying a big part of that. And of course, one of the things that they're talking about as a tool with the packers to kind of break up what's going on is to have country of origin labeling. Why is that a bad thing? Why is it? It isn't. It's a good thing. And so I realize that the North Dakota Stockmen's Association and the North Dakota Farm Bureau are organizations that kind of wink, wink, nod, nod, we support it, but we don't support it kind of a thing. I don't get that either. There are so many guys on the Stockmen's Association board that I know and I respect, and I watch how hard they work. But for the life of me, I can't figure out why they wouldn't take what isn't even that bold of a step, which is getting country of origin labeling. And if I'm a rancher, I think I'm going to put as much pressure as what I can. I think as a rancher, I'm going to contact my United States senators and tell them to sign on to this, but ours won't. They didn't. John Hoeven and Kevin Cramer have not signed on as Republicans to the letter that Mike Rounds, as a Republican, has done to try to help these ranchers out. They didn't sign it. They won't sign it. And they haven't signed it because, well, who's got the big political power? Who's got the checkbook? Who's got the biggest donation? You got a rancher that isn't making money. They're not going to sit there and write out thousands of dollars of donations to a United States senator. They're not going to do that. The Packers are. The Packers are going to make sure that these senators love them. And so I think it takes courage. I think it takes an understanding of what our ranchers are going through. I think it takes the ability to put themselves in a position where they ask whether or not they themselves would buy a package that of beef that was grown and raised right here in the good old US of A. I'd be really curious what they'd buy. But I do know this. Many of you would buy that beef product with that country of origin labeling, even if it cost a little bit more, which I don't believe would happen. I think then we'd have the ability to put a product out there you can take a lot of pride in. We also need meat processing plants. We do. That's a whole other issue for another day, why we can use the co-op system to do that. I'll have some closing comments for you about a certain congresswoman from Georgia right after this.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Spas, etc. Yeah.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you can pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Maiden Bismarck.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. You'd have to be completely disconnected from the world to not know now who that congresswoman is. But if you are, and maybe if you're smart enough to not be connected into the political side, I'll tell you, she's a congresswoman from Georgia. And this woman is out there. She's like Pluto. Both Republicans and Democrats have pointed that out. Certainly the Republicans have kind of joined onto that bandwagon over the last couple days. Now, this is a woman that will follow, basically kids that have been in schools that have been directed at and been involved with, in a bad way, potential victims of school shootings. And she'll follow them and just scream and harass them. That's the kind of person she is. This is a woman who will scream through a door at another congresswoman. Now, here's the thing about her. She's a huge Donald Trump supporter. Huge Donald Trump supporter. She's QAnon all the way through. She believes the election was stolen, and she believes that, that it's all completely corrupt, our election system. Well, a lot of people do. A lot of people like her do. But let me give you an example of what she did recently. Individuals that have not been vaccinated, which she thinks COVID is all a hoax and a joke. Individuals that have not been vaccinated have been told to wear a mask on the floor of the House. She doesn't like that. She doesn't like it at all. So her answer to that is to compare that to Jews having to wear a star during the Holocaust. I mean, that's how she compares it to the Jewish community, to the victims of the Holocaust, to those people. And one of the most evil thing that has ever happened on the earth to human beings, she compares wearing a mask and fighting COVID to that. And here's the thing. She is a hero to many on the Republican side. She is. She's a hero. They won't call her out. They won't. They won't point out exactly how bad of a person she is. They won't sit there and do what I'm doing right now. Look into a camera and say, you know what? Marjorie Taylor Greene is a quarter bubble from a level. See you tomorrow.